Hello, everybody. Was not thinking about getting a battle out this quickly, but we are back for another one. It is kind of a return to Rynn's world here. I've created a pretty rocky, mountainous battlefield that I'll show you guys in a sec. So we've moved away from the tundra. This is going to be the Crimson Fists, who knocked off the Tyrannid in the last round, currently Kings of the Hill, versus their arch nemesis, the Orks. We got quite an orc force here coming in at 390 points, and orcs are super cheap compared to some of the other forces out there. Down, point wise, like the Imperial Guard or the Astra Militarum, the Tyrannid, stuff like that. So they have a big force coming in here, and we're going to see how the Crimson Fists do. As always, though, we are going to roll off. I have these kind of bluish dice here. I bought those for Alpha Legion for my 30K. But I thought I'd use them for the orcs. I don't really have any green dice, so I thought that would work. And then we're still going to be using the red dice for the Crimson Fists. So as always, we're going to roll off and see who goes first. So orcs are going to be the first rollers here because they are the guests. So let's see what they get. 5, good roll. Crimson Fists next. And it's either a 2 or a 4. So it would flip over to a 2. So the orcs have taken the first dice roll, and I'm going to be placing them on the battlefield where I think they are best suited. And then from there, I will place the Crimson Guard, or the Crimson Fist, sorry. I'll cover both forces a little bit, and then I'll show you guys the battlefield, and we'll get into this one. And with the orcs having won the roll, they will be able to move and shoot first. So I'll go set that up, and I'll come right back and show you guys what's going on. All right, here we go. So this is the 390 point Goth Orc army that is going to be taking on the Crimson Fists in this next round of Fight Force 4. Get a hell of a lot of orcs for 390 points. We're sticking to those 4 units, and it is led by one of my favorite orc models, the Orc War Boss in Mega Armor. We get some Killicans here on the left flank, well, on my left, on their right. These are piloted by Gretchen. 5 wounds apiece and pretty good weapon systems, both in hand-to-hand combat and for range. We have the War Boss leading a pack of 10 boys, and he's going to be able to give them some buffs. And then the War Boss also has a Gretchen on his back, so the ballistic skill of Gretchen are better than the orcs. The saving grace here for the Crimson Fists is that those orcs have a ballistic skill of 5+. And then rounding it out over here, we have our Squig boys that are pretty strong, very good in hand-to-hand combat. Not as great for shooting again, but if these guys get into hand-to-hand, they're going to be able to tear the Space Marines apart. So I'm going to flip over here in just a sec and show you guys the Crimson Fists. All right, and this Crimson Fist army still coming in at 400 points. You guys saw them last time. They took the Tyrannid out, and they are on the top of the hill right now. So we have the Terminators over on the left flank on the right side from this angle. They're across from the Killicans. The Librarian, I'm not sure if I'm going to have him attached to the Terminators or if I'm going to have him attached to the Intercessors, because the Intercessors are going to need a little bit extra punch because they're taking on the War Boss and those 10 boys. And then we have the Suppressors finishing it off on the right flank, but on our left. And they're going to fly across the field there, and they're locked in with the Squig boys. These guys I have to be a little tricky with because last time I flew them in, we lost some guys early. And if the orcs do get some lucky rolls, they might be able to kill a few of these guys early. So we'll have to see. It is going to the orcs, though, for their first move, and then there is a very good possibility that they're going to have some range because they have some big shooters and some shooters and rocket launches and a whole bunch of stuff. So it could be shooting right off the bat for both forces. But we're going to get into it. I will move those orcs, show you guys where they are and what the plan is, and we will take it from there and see at the end of this one who is going to be at the top of the hill, if the Crimson Fists will remain or if the orcs are going to knock them off. So let's get to it. So apologies all you orc players. Beast Snagga boys. I was calling them Squig boys. Those are the guys on the squigs. They are Beast Snagga boys, and I'll try not to make that mistake going forward. They're a newer unit too, and I just haven't played with them for a while. I'm usually just with the orc boys, Goss, trucks, all that kind of stuff. Over here we had the orc boys move up with the War Boss. We've also seen that the Beast Snagga boys moved up too. The War Boss is actually in range and in line of sight for the big shooter that is with the Gretchen. So just looking here, you guys can see straight down that valley, firing through. The intercessor marines are just right there, and the shot actually goes beyond them, so definitely in range and in line of sight. The nice thing for both sides here is there's a lot of terrain that's going to block lines of sight, and I think that might play best for the orcs because they'll be able to get into cover and then get into hand-to-hand combat further down the field. So it's going to be a pretty tough build for the Crimson Fists to fill. And the only one that's in range and in line of sight currently is that Orc War Boss. A lot of the weapon systems here are 12 inches, and then we do have a rocket launcher that's 24, but they're not in line of sight. So I'm going to get that rolled right now in the tray, and we're going to see if this Orc War Boss can take anybody out right off the bat. It does have a rapid fire too, but that would have to be 18 inches, and they're not that close yet, but they might be. We'll have to see. And just to flip it around on this side so you guys can see that cover from the battlefield level. So suppressors, they might have a line of sight there when they start to move. Right here you can see again, we have the Orc War Boss right through here. And he's like above the building there, so you can see him in the back. Or his little Gretchen buddy up on top. Zoom it right in for you guys. See, there he is. And then shooting over the wall, through the valley, right over to the Intercessor Sergeant pretty much. And then the Librarian and the Terminators are all in cover as well. So I'm going to shoot that again off camera, come back, show you guys. This is the battlefield too. Forgot to show you guys that off the bat. I'm kind of all over the place today. Another crazy week of work. Things are nuts. But anyways, so lots and lots of cover here. Each rock formation kind of would cover a unit if they broke out into like ACAC formation, or sometimes if they're across in two ranks. So we'll see how this goes. Come right back and show you guys how that big shooter has done from the Gretchen. You know what? Since it's the first roll of the game, I think we're going to get it on camera. Read through a few of the things here too. So with the Warboss and Mega Armor, he's luckily not firing. It's his little Gretchen buddy on his back. I think I've called him in previous battles Grink Grink. You can see him in a lot of the fights. It is a 36-inch attack, 3 attacks normally, and gets an additional 2 if it's within half range of that. And it is a 4+ instead of a 5+. So we're going to roll that right now. Strength 5 as well. So this one fell off. There's no extra rerolls or anything allowed. It's Strength 5 versus Toughness 4. So this is going to be 3s to wound. And another one fell off, so good for the Crimson Fists. That one is through though, 0 AP. So our Intercessor has a 3+ save. It's 1 damage as well, so they are going to survive this, but let's see if they take a wound. And they did not. So the Crimson Fists are unscathed, and it is moving over to them for their movement and their shoot. Okay, so Crimson Fist move is done. Start up on the left flank here. We have the Terminators who moved up. They're in behind a bit of cover there with the rock and the wall formation. The Librarian, I'm not attaching him to anyone. I think I'm going to have to leave him solo to be able to kind of go in and take on that War Boss himself. He's kind of the only model that really can, other than maybe the Terminator section. The Librarian also doesn't really buff anyone out right now, as he does Psychic Protection, and none of the Orcs have any Psychic attacks that are part of this force. The Intercessors as well, moving up kind of cautiously after they took some fire there from the Orc War Boss. No damage was done, but they're, getting in behind cover a little bit. And the Suppressors moved up their full 12. They've got this wall here, and they have a few units in range and in line of sight. So they have the Beast Snagga Boys. They have the Orc War Boss, but that is going to have a additional cover save. That one Orc Boy on the right there is open, and then that would be about it. Because if you come down to their level, you can see through there, they don't have very good shots, other than that guy and those 4, because they are a little bit higher than the rest of the models. So I'm going to move to the tray. I'm going to figure out which shots I want to do that are going to be the most efficient with the suppressors, and try to kill some orcs here. So I think I'll roll that off camera though, and then I'll come back and show you guys what has happened. Just back from the dice tray there. Pretty successful round by the suppressors. They were able to put some rounds down on those Beast Snagga Boys, and they killed 4 of them on the left side of that unit. Each unit does have a knob that has 2 wounds, but every orc has a single wound. So The others were in cover, not in line of sight, so the suppressors put all of their rounds into those 4, and they were able to kill them. So it is back over to the Orks now for their move. Okay, Ork move is complete. Beastnaga boys are still in some great cover there behind the rock. There's no line of sight, no range to them right now. The War Boss moved in with the Ork Boys squad. They're also in cover as well behind the wall and behind the rock. And over here, the Killicans moved up on top of the structure here, and they have line of sight and range for the Crimson Fist Terminators. So we're going to see what happens there. I got to go through those Killican weapon systems just to make sure I have the right ones. And these things are pretty good. So toughness 6, not the most amazing toughness, but they are just a little Gretchen in there. But they each have 5 wounds. So they got a little bit of staying power. And we'll see how this goes. But right now the Orks are in really good cover. And I think the only ones that will be able to flush them out there are the suppressors. But it's back over the Orks here for their shoot now. And there is the Wog, which I can call later. Don't think I'm going to be doing that right now. And that's going to buff the hell out of all of these units to help them out with ballistic skill, weapon skill, possibly wounds, extra attacks, a whole bunch of stuff. Saving that one though as kind of a last-ditch thing there closer to the end of the battle. Hopefully I can make it that far, but I'm going to go roll in the tray for the kill cans, and we will see what they can do against the Crimson Fist Terminators. So I'm actually going to bring this one to the tray on camera because I just checked the abilities of the Killicans, and they have something called Shooty Power Trip, which is an ability that I wasn't aware of. I guess this came in with the new codex. So each time this unit is selected to shoot, you can roll 1d6. So I don't have to, but I think I'm going to do it because it's going to give them some extra stuff. So on a 1 to 2, this unit suffers d6 mortal wounds. That's not good. On a 3 to 4, until the end of the phase, add 1 to the strength characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit. That's really good, especially against Terminators. And then on a 5 to 6, until the end of the phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit. So this could go very, very badly, which is an Orky thing, or very good. You know what? I'll roll their bluishy green dice here. So we're looking for anything but a 1 or 2. So here we go. And we got a 1. So they suffer d6 mortal wounds. Sorry, Killicans. And it was just 1 wound, so that's not too bad. I'm going to take that off of the Scorcha and flip it to 4. So there we go. Didn't get any cool stuff, but they are going to do the regular shoot. I think I am going to do that off camera though, and then I'll come back and show you guys if they've been able to wound those Terminators. I just wanted to bring that up. Kind of cool. We'll see if I do it again. If I can get some better rolls, I might do that. But for now, I'm just going to shoot with their regular weapons, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so that is it for the Ork shoot. The Killican with the can shooter, which I believe is, it looks like a big shooter, but it's kind of can shaped, so I'm guessing that's what it is. Fired, and just not a high enough roll there to be able to get too many shots off. 1 did, but it could not penetrate. And then this is the Grotzuka over here, which is a little bit stronger, but the range is only 18 inches, so they're still outside of range of that, but they're still kicking. It is back over the Crimson Fists here. I'm going to do their movement, and then we'll see what's going on there and what Ork models are in range for their attacks, because the Space Marines, they've got some pretty good range, even with the bolt guns there. If I can get in closer, and if I can get around some of this cover, they're going to be able to put some fire down. And I think the suppressors are probably going to be able to do that the fastest. So I'll go move them, come back, show you guys what happened. Okay, sum up the Crimson Fists move there. The suppressors moved up their full 12. They do not really have the Beastnaga boys in their line of sight. So there's a bit of the shoulder of the knob there on the right, but they're going to take the for sure shot, which is the 4 Ork boys that are here. And you can see from that angle, they're pretty open to their shots. Maybe 2 of them, actually. Yeah, it looks like 2. So all the accelerator autocannon shots are going to go on those 2. The intercessors have moved up, and the librarian is with them once again. Just works well. He's going to be able to give them a little bit more protection there with the armor, and then possibly some psychic support. And then over here we have the Terminators. They've got a couple as well of their unit that are in line of sight and in range of the kill cans. So they're going to be putting some shots down on them in just a sec. And roll that off camera, come back and show you guys how many wounds have been removed or how many Orks have been killed. So over the tray, be right back. Shoot phase done. Crimson Fists, the accelerator autocannons from the suppressors fired in, and we're able to kill those 2 Ork boys. There was like 6 wounds that were allocated there. Luckily, there weren't more in line of sight. And then over here, the Terminators fired. So we had the Stormbolter, Stormbolter, and Stormbolter fire. They're not getting that rapid fire too, but they were able to wound the middle Killican again. So after it did that crazy move last turn, I did damage to it. It's down to 3 wounds from 5. But these things have a strength or a toughness of 6, and the Stormbolters are a strength of 4. So need 5s to roll there, and tough to get even with the Oath of Moment. So pretty much when I have them lined up like that, I'm not going to call it every time, but that was Oath of Moment. So Terminators to Killicans, the Suppressors locked in Oath of Moment against those Orc boys, and I'll continue to do that. It is back over to the Orcs now, though, so we'll see as they continue to move up the board, hopefully stay in cover, and if they do get into hand-to-hand combat, watch out Crimson Fists, because it might be over real quick if we can get that in there. So we'll see how it goes. Over to the Orcs. Orc movement has been completed. They're taking up the middle of the board right now. The suppressors, a lot of them are in range and in line of sight, so there's going to be a lot of shots coming in on them in just a sec when I move over to the dice tray. The war boss is in the middle, still has a bit of cover. I have to really think here because the Orcs aren't very well armored. They do have that higher toughness, but if these suppressors continue to shoot at them, they're going to be losing more and more troops, and there's still at least one more move before they can get into hand-to-hand. And the suppressors can still move that 12 inches during their turn, so I'm going to have to really hopefully roll well for them here and get some shots going. I might also initiate the Wog pretty soon. I don't think yet, but we're almost there. And the kill cans jumped off of the walkway here onto the field, and they're coming down at the Terminators. They're also going to be firing on them as a lot of them have range and line of sight. So I'm going to move to the tray, roll all that stuff off camera, and I'll show you guys how many Crimson Fists were wounded or killed when I come right back. I maybe should have got that in the dice tray because that was some really good rolls by the Orcs. Well, they weren't great because they have a ballistic skill 5, so 5 pluses to hit, which is pretty abysmal. So the Beast Naga boys, they weren't able to fire at all. The Orc boys got a couple shots in. The War Boss got a couple shots in, but nothing happened. It was actually the rocket launcher here. This was the weapon that's probably the most powerful in the unit too, and he was able to kill the suppressors. So that's a blast weapon. It got 3 damage per 2 attacks made it through. The suppressors could not save. It's a strength 9 weapon as well, and it killed them outright. So that's a huge hit to the Crimson Fists. They kind of needed those guys to have that extra punch there because the Orcs do have a toughness 5, so it's going to be trickier for bolt guns and stormbolters. And then over here, the Killicans do have a better ballistic skill because of the Gretchen pilots that are inside them, so it's a 4+ instead of a 5+. The can shooter that's here didn't do anything. The Grotzuka didn't do anything. It was actually the Scorcha, so it's like a heavy flamer but Orc variant, and it blasted in here and gouted the Terminators. And the guy here took 1 wound, so he is down to 2 from 3. The Terminators are still in pretty good shape though, and it is back over the Crimson Fist here, but I'm gonna have to start being very smart. Because if I get too close to these Orcs, they're going to chop us up in hand-to-hand combat. And Crimson Fists, they hate the Orcs as per what happened on Rynn's world. So I also want to have them kind of fighting hard. But we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to do their move, and we'll come back and show you guys what they did. Crimson Fist move, all done. They have taken cover behind this wall, but definitely has some shooting lanes at those windows at the Orcs. So that's going to be interesting. I might get those actually on camera to show you guys how they do. So we'll roll those in the tray in just a sec. And there's a lot of boys that are going to be open after they open themselves up to try to take out the suppressors. So I'm thinking that those bolt guns might hit true and kill some Beast Naga boys or any Orc boys that might be in line of sight. And then the Terminators did something similar. They've moved in behind the Gothic terrain here for some cover. It's about half the unit in. And they're going to be firing at whatever is open for the kill cans. The one in the middle there looks like it's pretty much open, so all the Stormbolters and Heavy Flamer, if in range, are going to be going in on that. So I'm going to check out my lines of sight. I'll check out the ranges, make sure that I'm getting all my rapid bonuses if they're going to be allocated to me, and then from there we'll start rolling in the tray. I don't know if I'll roll everything in the tray, but I'll definitely get a few shots, maybe the Terminators, and we'll go from there. But see you guys in the tray in just a sec. All right, here we are over in the dice rolling tray for the Crimson Fists, I'm going to be firing at the Beast Snagaboys with the Intercessors and locking in Oath of Moment, so they'll get all their bonuses for that. I'm going to start up with the Astartes Grenade Launcher, firing frag. The frag is strength 4 against the toughness 5, and I'm just hoping for a lot of shots here. So let's see how we do. Looking for a 3+ that I can reroll. Got a 4, that's great. So sorry, this is going to be the count, so that's going to be cut in half because it's a D3, so it's 2. Now I need the 3+ that I can reroll. Got them both, don't need to reroll. It is strength 4 versus toughness 5, so 5's to wound. That becomes a 5 because of Oath of Moment. That, however, is not high enough, so there is 1 through. And it is going to be a regular 5+ save for our Beast Snagaboy. Got a 4, so he has died. So the frag grenade has taken one of them out. Take the guy off the back of the unit. And now I'm moving over to our bolt rifles. So it is heavy, but we're not getting that bonus because they moved up into cover this turn. Oath of Moment is still active though. So I have bolt rifles for the rest of the unit there. Actually, I don't. The sergeant does not have one, so we'll do his bolt pistol after the fact. I'm just checking to see if it's a heavy bolt pistol. It is just a bolt pistol. So these are the bolt rifles. They are hitting on a 3+, be able to reroll because this is their Oath of Moment. So I can reroll these. These are all through already. And got 2 more. This is an incredible ability for the Space Marines. Strength 4 though versus toughness 5, so you need 5s to wound. You got a couple. You add 1 to the hit roll if that's a 5, so these fell off. However, there are 3 through, and it is a -1 to AP, so this is going to be a 6+ save for the Beast Snagaboys. There we go. All right. So there has been 1 save made, and I just checked. Apologies, all you Ork fans out there. They do have a Feel No Pain 6+. So this entire time should have been rolling. I haven't played Ork in a long time, so it's new rules and some new units. But if they roll 6s here, those wounds are not allocated. Didn't matter. They have both been killed, so 2 more Beast Snagaboys have fallen off the back of that unit. There we go. And now we're going to do the bolt pistol for the Crimson Fist Sergeant. It is 3+. I can reroll. 2s did not fire, so his gun click. That was it. I'm going to be doing the kill cans versus Terminators here. So the Terminators firing all the kill cans off camera. And then I'll come back and sum that up just to kind of shorten the video up. And we'll see how that goes. And I'll come back and sum everything up for you guys in just a sec. Okay, so just a quick sum up there. Crimson Fist shoot phase has completed. The Intercessors fired in to the Beast Snagaboys here, killed several of the unit. Apologies again for not picking up that Feel No Pain. I'm really distracted this battle. I don't know what's going on. I might take a break after this actually, and then maybe just get back into something else for a while, but we'll see. Sum up here too. The Crimson Fist Terminators fired in with everything they had. The kill cans have a pretty high toughness, so it's tough to penetrate through that, but the middle one did take a wound from one of the Storm Bolters, and it is down to 2 wounds from 5. And it's flipping back over to the Orks here, so let's see what they do. Those kill cans are getting super close to the Terminators. They're actually very good in hand-to-hand combat. And then these Ork boys and Beast Snagaboys are all going to be trying to get into hand-to-hand as quickly as they can, and that Ork War Boss is absolutely devastating in hand-to-hand combat. So we will see if there is any Space Marine model on this board that can actually take him if that does get into hand-to-hand combat. So I'll do their move, come right back, show you guys what's up for the Orks, and we'll keep moving from there. Quick sum up here for the Orks. They're starting to get super close and very close to that hand-to-hand combat. I don't think the WOG is going to be called this turn. I should have actually called it right before I moved, but I think I'll be calling it very soon because this is going to be getting super close to hand-to-hand combat and trying to buff these guys out as much as I can. However, the Orks all do have this one Marine who has the grenade launcher actually in line of sight and in range. So I think the entire Beast Snagaboy remaining models, Ork boys, and the War Boss are going to be firing in on him. And if you guys can see, he's pretty much open there in the corner, so he's not hiding. Like for this angle, you can see that one dude's completely behind the pillar, so he's open and he's going to possibly be shredded by slug of fire. Over here, the kill cans are also getting super close, so if that WOG is called next turn, the Terminators are going to have some pretty crazy models on their hands. I could not get into hand-to-hand combat, so this was the maximum 6 inches for the Killicans. This is how close they could get, but they can still use all of their ranged firepower on most likely these 3 Terminators here because they're open. Very cool this time with the battle. Like there's tons of cover to allow both forces to kind of creep up and shoot around stuff and get benefit of cover. And if they have weapons that are torrent, it of course ignores cover. So it's been pretty cool to do that. Most of the battles have been very open lanes for hand-to-hand combat for shoots. This one is a lot more broken up, so very cool. I am going to go to the dice tray though, get all these rolled off for the Orks, come right back and show you guys if they've been able to kill any of their arch nemesis, the Crimson Fists. Well, shit. That ballistic skill for the Orks of 5+ is really rough. So every single Ork boy here, as well as the Beast Naga boy and the War Boss fired into this Marine. Both sections here of boys did not even hit just because of that roll. And then there was a couple that came through from the Gretchen on the top of the War Boss, but the Marine was able to save it. So he is good to go. That Intercessor squad is still at 5 with the Chief Librarian behind them there. Over here, the Killicans fared a little bit better with that 4+ ballistic skill. And it was the Grotzuka finally in range that was able to take another wound off of our Terminator back here. So he is down to 1. The rest of the unit has 3 though, and it is over to the Crimson Fists. They are probably going to be jumping into hand-to-hand combat here. The Terminators versus the Killicans. That will be their Oath of Moment. And then over here, these Marines are going to have to get smart because they're getting super close to getting into hand-to-hand combat with a ton of angry boys that want a good scrap and a good crumpin'. And they're going to have to start firing and hitting true to make sure that they dwindle some of those numbers down. So I might be trying to do these guys a bit of a strategic retreat there, but I want to make sure that the heavy ability is locked in, so I might not move them. We'll have to see what happens. I think they can probably take out a lot of boys there if they can fire into the main boys squad, and we'll see how it goes when they get into combat with that Ork War Boss, because that's definitely going to happen. But yeah, maybe I'll try to take some pot shots at him too and possibly kill him. I do have the crack grenade launcher still, so a few strategies I have to go over with the Crimson Fists. So I'm going to think about that for just a sec. I will move them and then come back and show you guys what I have decided to do. Now this one is starting to get interesting. So I've decided to keep my Crimson Fists here to get that heavy ability. With all of their specialist roles there with the Oath of Moment, I'm hoping they might be able to fell or at least soften up the Ork War Boss. So they're going to be putting all of their rounds onto him from that Intercessor squad, and it's definitely going to be a crack grenade that's going to be going into him as well. I'll probably roll that on camera to show you guys that one. The Librarian in Terminator armor moved 5 inches and has his Stormbolter fixed on these Beast Naga boys. He's going to try to dwindle their numbers as well, while the Intercessors take care of the War Boss. And then over here, which is going to be one hell of a scrap, I'll also get it on camera through the dice tray, is the Imperial Fist, I keep saying Imperial Fists. The Crimson Fist Terminators have gone into hand-to-hand combat with the Killicans, and we're going to see how they do with those Power Fists. Very possible that the Killicans are going to be able to fight back, though, and they're actually quite good in hand-to-hand combat. It's not a Death Dread, which would be much worse, but they're still able to carry their weight in some hand-to-hand fighting. So we're going to move to the tray, get this stuff rolling, shoot first over here, and then we'll move into the hand-to-hand combat, and they're hoping for some really, really cool rolls and some cool outcomes from that. So let's see what happens. Okay, so just to sum up, those Oath of Moments have been called. So the Intercessor squad Oath of Moment right now is the War Boss. We have the Librarian and Terminator armor, which is the Beast Naga boys. So I'm going to start off here with the crack grenade launcher from our Intercessor squad. It is hitting on a 3+, and I can re-roll this because of Oath of Moment. So we got the 3, that's great. It's strength 9 versus toughness 6. That's going to be 3s to wound, and I can also add on here if I have to. So it's a 4, that is good to go. And we're going to see if the War Boss can save. So he does have a 5+ invulnerable. The crack grenade does a -2, so he's not quite up to that. He's going to get a 4+ save here. So the Mega armor, like for the Orks, if you guys don't know, is kind of like Terminator armor for the Space Marines. So it's like, you know, piston driven. It's all helping their strength. It's got an exoskeleton, all that stuff. So it's a pretty badass armor. And he usually has a 2+ save. So this is going to bring him up to that 4+. And he's been able to save. So if that had gone through, it would have been D3 damage. Let's just see. Price is Right style here, or, you know, let's make a deal style. What would have happened if the damage had gone through? It would have been 2 wounds. So he's still fine. I just wanted to see. So the Warboss and Mega Armor has survived. The best weapon there that the Intercessor Squad has. They still do have Bolt Pistol and Bolt Rifles, and I might get some lucky rolls here. And it's also going to be the Heavy ability plus the Oath of Moment. So there's going to be a lot of shots coming through here. Not the greatest strength, but let's see how it goes. So first off is going to be the Bolt Pistol after the crack. So the crack's done. This is now the Sergeant's Bolt Pistol. It is a 3+ because this does not have a heavy. Got it. Strength 4 versus toughness 6. I need a 5. Got the 5. No AP, so the Warboss has his normal 2+. And he got a 1. Shit. So do you see what I mean? Like the Bolt Pistol, I guess, plugged him 1 in the face. So I'm just going to switch his dice over here to, or his wound token over to 6. And now we're moving over to the Bolt Rifles. They are going to get their heavy here. So we have 2, 4, 6 Marines, or 6 rolls from 3 Marines. And it is going to be hitting on a 2+. And the 1 I can actually re-roll. So there we go. That was because of Oath of Moment. It is strength 4, toughness 6. So I need 5s to wound. And I can add 1 onto any here. So these have fallen off. This 4, however, becomes a 5. So there's 3 through. They're -1 to AP. So that brings our Orc Warboss in Mega Armor up to a 3+8. And he's made them all. It's tough to see these dice, but that's a 3, a 5, and a 5. I think you guys can see that. But from my angle, it looks super tough to see. But yeah, the Orc Warboss has survived that onslaught. I am going to roll the Librarian off camera and sum that up really quick for the shoot, and then we'll get into the hand-to-hand combat with the Terminators versus the Killicans. Okay, so that concludes the Crimson Fists. The Librarian just did his roll there. Not a great model. Stormbolter, so like it's not great, but I used his Witchfire. It's a D6. I was really hoping for a high roll. I got a 1, which wasn't great, and then he wasn't able to roll high enough, and then on the reroll it also didn't work for Oath of Moment. So the Beast Naga boys, there's still 3 of them. They're at full strength, and they're getting very close here. And as we saw, they did put some rounds into the Warboss. 1 wound was chipped off. So he's down to 6, but he's still at almost full strength and ready to get in there and chop up some intercessors. And you guys are going to see, I'm not exaggerating. He's going to be in hand-to-hand combat, and it's going to be absolute carnage because something will be called in just a sec when it flips back over to the Orcs. Right now, though, we still do have the Terminators down here, so I'm going to get the Terminators rolling in the tray and seeing how many of these Killicans they can punch through and turn into kind of crap cans. And then if the Killicans can fight back, though, they got some pretty good weaponry. So we'll go over to the tray and do that right now. Okay, so we do have the Oath of Moment here locked in for those Terminators. So they're going to be able to reroll a bunch of stuff. We are using their Power Fists, and all of them are still alive. All of them have their 3 attacks. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 attacks coming through. Just grab all my dice here. And 15, so tons of hand-to-hand here. It's also strength 8 versus a toughness of 6, so these Terminators are going to do some damage if they get good rolls. So here we go, looking for 3 pluses, which can be re-rolled. So there's a bunch here that fell off, but we're going to see if we can roll them. So this is the past dice pool. Down here is going to be our new, so 3 pluses. Oof, a few more fell off, but still we picked up a lot more. So again, that strength 8 versus toughness 6 is going to be 3s to wound, and we can add 1s on here as per Oath of Moment. So any 2s become 3s, and so that's a lot that's gone through. Instead of counting these all out and picking up blue/green dice, I'm going to roll these for the Killicans. So the Power Fist is a -2. The Killicans have a save of 3+. This is going to bring them up to a 5+. And anything that gets through here is going to be 2 damage. So this could actually kill them all. Very good roll so far by the Terminators. So let's see how it goes. Looking for 5s. And not so good roll by the Killicans. So these were saved. We have 3 6s and a 5. However, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 damage. They have been destroyed. So the Terminators punched right through those killicans. They had 12 wounds remaining in total, and that's more than enough to finish them off. So the killicans have been eliminated, and the Ork boys, War Boss, and Beast Naga boys are what remains for that Goth Ork force. So I'm going to be moving over to them. We're going to be calling the Wog from the Ork War Boss, and I definitely don't want to rule the Orks out yet because that model is very frightening, and you guys might see what I mean here in just a sec. Oh, and before I forget here, I was just checking the killicans. They do have Deadly Demise 1, so this is going to affect the Terminators if this works. So for this, just to read you guys the ability, so it's a core ability. Some models have Deadly Demise X. For the killicans, it's Deadly Demise 1, and that's listed in their abilities. When such a model is destroyed, roll 1d6 before removing it from play. If such a model is a transport, it's not in this case, but there's different rules for that. On a 6, each unit within 6 inches of that model suffers a number of mortal wounds denoted by X, which is going to be 1 in this case. And if this is a random number, roll separately, but it is a 1 here. So for each killican, I'm going to be rolling. I'll roll a blue dice. And if we get a 6 here, it is going to be doing 1 mortal wound. So some Terminators might get, this is like their models that have gas tanks on them or weapon systems in them, ammunition. It's going to explode after they get destroyed. So we're gonna have to see if any Terminators get harmed in the blast back. So roll them one at a time for dramatic effect. Whoa, 2 came out. So I'll say that's a 4. There is a 6 though, so there's gonna be 1 wound for sure, and then a 1. So we have 1, 4, 6. One of our Terminators, if you guys can remember, had only 1 wound left. So the explosion of the killican, whether it was a gas tank or an ammunition box on it, exploded, and it did kill that 1 Terminator. So even though the Terminators were victorious there, they have lost a model. Now it's back over to the Orks, and I'll show you guys what's going on with the wow that's going to be activated. It has happened. So what the Orks have been itching for this entire fight is occurring now. The Ork War Boss has gone into solo hand-to-hand combat with the Terminator Librarian. We have the 3 Beast Naga boys, which were in range to jump into combat with the Intercessors. I'll be reading in the dice tray what the Wog is all about and what it does. And then the Ork boys were not quite in range for hand-to-hand combat, but they've moved up. And our rocket launcher that did that crazy damage to the suppressors and killed them all actually has the Terminator here in range and in line of sight. So he's going to be firing at that during this turn. And then anything that isn't finished off here, the Intercessors are either going to have to get into hand-to-hand combat with it or try to shoot it again if they survive. So 3 Beast Naga boys. It's a bit of a tall order to take out 5 2 wound apiece Space Marines, but we'll see how it goes. Very excited to get this over in the dice tray, read about the WOG and what it does for everybody. I think I'm calling it at a good time because it would be nice if the Ork boys were all in there with them, but it might help them out a little bit in regard to some shooting too. So I'll have to read all that for them, make sure that I'm not missing any rules. We also have the Beast Naga boys. Feel no pain. I'm going to make sure that gets used this time if the Intercessors aren't wiped out and are able to fight back. And then we'll see what goes on here with the 2 war bosses for this force, or the 2 warlords, I should say, one being a war boss. So over the dice tray, and I'll get that shoot done first. Maybe do a quick sum up just when we get to the tray, and then we'll start doing the hand-to-hand combat. Okay, so the rocket launcher was not as lucky against the Terminator as it was against the suppressors, and it did get some okay rolls, but the Terminator was able to save it with that 4+ invulnerable. So now we're moving on to hand-to-hand combat. Just wanted to read this off before we get into it here. So I have called the Wah, which is an Ork ability, and the War Boss and Mega Armor, as well as the other Orks that are in hand-to-hand combat, are going to get a bonus here. So I'll just read this really quickly. It is a faction ability. If your army faction is Orks, which is the case here, they're all Orks, once per battle, at the start of your command phase, so this is once per battle, so I'm calling it, can't call it again. During my command phase, you can call a Wah. If you do until the start of your next command phase, so that's the entirety of this turn, the WOG is active for your army, and units from your army with this ability are eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which they advanced. Add 1 to strength and attacks characteristics of melee weapons equipped by models from your army with this ability, so that's going to be pretty crazy. And then models from your army with this ability have a 5+ invulnerable save. So that means during the entire next turn for the Crimson Fists, since it's the entirety of the phase, they're going to have 5+ invulnerables as well against any shoots. So if the Terminators get in there and start shooting, the regular Orks aren't going to have any AP given to them by the Heavy Flamer or by crack grenade launchers or anything like that. So we're going to get into this right now. I am going to start it up with the Beast Snagga Boys, and I'm just going to read here in case there's anything particular for them with the WOG. I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same, so I'm just going to make sure that that's done. So we have their melee weapons, which are choppas, and these guys get 3 attacks apiece. So a choppa is like a big axe, so it's going to be 3, 6, 9 attacks. If this is a full unit, they would have 30 attacks, which is more than I think a lot of the other forces in the entirety of the game. World Eaters maybe, don't get me wrong. There might be some other forces that do, but I'd have to check that out. And a lot of the new codexes come out, so some rules have changed. But we do have the choppa. I just want to make sure my knob has a Power Snappa, which is even more. So I'm going to pull 3 dice out here. We'll do the Power Snappa after. So this is the 2 Beast Snagga Boys. They have choppas, so 3 and 3. Their rolls here go way up as well. So instead of a 5+ with their normal ballistic skill, it's now a 3+. And with that WOG being called, there is an added 1 strength to the attacks, add 1 to the strength and attack characteristics. So usually it's a strength 5. It's now a strength 6, which is going to be making these attacks even better. If it was against like Imperial Guardsmen, it's lights out because it's a 2+. I think this is still probably going to be a 3, but we'll get into that in just a sec. We have to see if they hit first. So here we go. 3 pluses for our Orks. 1 fell off. 1 fell off. So this is usually strength 5. It is now strength 6 against toughness 4. So this is going to be 3s to wound. And 3 of those are through. Just going to check the WOG again to make sure. Yeah, okay, perfect. So 3 are through. And it is going to be a -1 to AP for our Space Marines, so that brings them up to a 4+ save. And 1 has taken a wound. The 2 others have fallen off. So I'm just going to mark the 1 wound remaining Space Marine. None of them had any wounds allocated to them as of yet. And we're not over yet because the Power Snappa of the Snagga Boy knob is going to be used here. So it is 3 pluses to hit. Are you kidding me? Oh no, my poor Orks. So it's going to be a 3 here. Just 1 made it through. It is strength 8 now versus toughness 4. So this is actually going to be a 2 to roll. It would usually be a 3. I swear to God, if you roll the 1. So it's a 6, -1 to AP. That's going to bring the Intercessor Marine up to a 4+. It was a 2 that was failed, and with the Power Snappa, it is 2 wounds allocated. So that 1 Marine is dead, and then another Marine has been wounded as well. So the knob went crazy there and started snapping all over the place. So that is the end of the first combat. Not as great as I thought it would be, but I may have called it early, but I don't want the Space Marines to shred up these Ork boys. So just having that ability and at least taking 1 out has softened things up. So I'm going to get everything set here, look at the stats, and we'll be back for the 2 warlords of each force against one another. And then also the Space Marine fight back. Alrighty, so yeah, before I forget here again, kind of just, I'm not focused. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on in my brain, but so this is going to be the Space Marine counterattack. So it's 3 attacks per at 3+. This was no, it wasn't their Oath of Moment, so they're not going to be able to get that from that. That was the Ork Boys last turn. Or actually it was the Warlord, or the War Boss. So this is going to be our close combat weapons hitting on a 3+. You're not going to get any bonuses, no rerolls here because that was not the Oath of Moment. A lot are through though. It is strength 4 versus toughness 5, so we're going to need 5s to wound. Yeah, pretty damn good roll. Not bad. So a little over 50% fell off. This is 0 AP, so I'm going to grab 4 of the blue dice here for our Orks. They have a invulnerable save. It's not going to come into play since there's no AP, so they're making 5+ saves here. And then there is that Feel No Pain of 6+. So currently they are 3 dead, which would be Yeah, we bring the knob down to 1 wound. This has been saved. However, I do get to roll that Feel No Pain, so 6+. And it didn't work. So we have taken 3 wounds to the Beast Naga boys. So that is 2 of the boys, and then the knob is down to 1 wound. He's still in the fight though, and he's close to that Orc boy squad, which is now in range as well. So we're going to see what happens during that next turn for them. But first thing first, we're going to get rolling here for the Warlord fight in just a sec. Okay, so this is it. I hope I haven't talked this guy up too much. It's going to be an absolute dud. But the power of this War Boss in Mega Armor is extreme. He has a huge Choppa, which usually has 4 attacks. In this case, with the Wog having been called, it is now up to 5. And the damage characteristic as well of this goes up to a 3 from a 2 because of that as well. So we're going to see what happens here. How many attacks get through? This might finish off the Librarian and Terminator for the Crimson Fist, but let's see if you can get the hits. It is hitting on a 2+. 1 fell off. Crazy. You'd think 2s would be a little bit easier, but no. With that Wog as well, the strength of his weapon goes from 12 to 13. So we're talking about like cutting tanks in half here with this, but it is 13 strength versus toughness 5. So this is going to be 2s to wound. And this is like against a Terminator Librarian. So this is like the best armor that the Space Marines have. And he's able to do a wound on a 2+. 1 did fall off again, roll the 1. It is -2 to AP. The Librarian does have that invulnerable save. So it is going to be a 4+ for him. And let's see if he can do it. Oof, not a great roll. So we have this one that was saved. There was a 5. These 2, however, are at 3 damage apiece because of the Wog from 2. So that is 3, 6 wounds. The Warlord of the Crimson Fists have fallen to the Orc War Boss. I didn't talk him up too much, too badly. He proved himself there for all of you guys watching. The Wog is over, however. It's going back over to the Space Marines. But the Orc War Boss is still in there. He still has 6 wounds. And he is able to do some devastating damage even without the Wog done, as we just saw to the Librarian. So over to the Crimson Fists, I really have to get a strategy going for them. We have 4 Intercessors left and 4 Terminators left, and about twice that in Orc Boys and the War Boss. So I've got to start thinking about stuff, and we'll see what we can do here, and if we can get the Crimson Fists to win, or if the Orcs are going to be able to knock them off the hill and take that top spot. Crimson Fist move is done. The Intercessors backed way the hell off and said, holy shit, we just saw our Chief Librarian DeGarro in Terminator armor get split in half by the Orc War Boss in Mega armor. So they backed right up, and they're going to try to put some more rounds on him. And then over here, the Terminators have moved in as well. They're still pretty far out from getting into hand-to-hand because they have that 5-inch move, so better armor but much slower because of it. And they're going to be putting all of their rounds and firepower onto the Orc Boys to make sure that that's a bit dwindled. And then we're going to see how that goes and see how many they can kill. The Stormbolters still only have that strength 4 against Orc toughness 5, and the bolt guns are the same at strength 4. That crack grenade launcher is going to be effective, hopefully, against the Orc War Boss. But I'm going to roll all that off camera, come right back and show you guys how many Orcs remain. Okay, quick sum up there for the Crimson Fist shoot. They were able to fire into the War Boss with a couple shots. Nothing happened though, and it was the crack grenade launcher that actually didn't fire. So that's the weapon that we really wanted to hit home and hit true. It did not. So the War Boss is still at the 6 wounds with the Beast Naga Boy knob. Over here, however, the Terminators did fantastic. So they did have that Oath of Moment locked in against the Orc Boys. Those Stormbolters each have 2 attacks regularly. They're within half range, so they were able to get an additional 2 rapid fire per. So they put just tons of rounds down. Even though they were strength 4 against toughness 5, it was enough to dwindle the Orc Boys down to 2 models. So there is just the Rocket Launcher Orc Boy and the Orc Boy Knob left. And that Oath of Moment again coming in super successful for the Terminators. And I still had that 5+ invulnerable save as well from the Wog being called last turn by the War Boss, but it didn't help out here. and they were not able to make the save, so they were killed. This is what remains of the Ork force here, but as long as that war boss is still healthy with pretty damn good wounds, the fight, I would say, is nowhere near being done. So back over to the Orks now, and we're going to see what they do. War boss trying to close that gap to be able to get that huge choppa swinging again, but just outside of range there of getting into hand-to-hand combat. They are going to be able to shoot though, so him and the Beast Snagaboy Knob with the one wound left are trying to take on those intercessors and take them out. Over here, the remaining Knob and the Ork Boy with the rocket launcher are going to be firing into the Terminators, hoping for another really good roll there from the rocket launcher. It is strength 9, so it could definitely do some damage against the Terminators. I just have to roll well. The WOG is over, so there's going to be no more bonuses from that. And just like the best strategy for Orks usually is you load them up in a truck, get them way down the field as quickly as possible. But if you have them open to ranged fire, they can't really fire back. And in time, their numbers are going to just continue to be dwindled. And that's what's happened here. There's not really any way around that because you want to get them into hand-to-hand combat because that's where they're really successful. And the loadout here too, like I was thinking about bringing in, they have like their Flamer boys there, the Scorcher boys, whatever they're called. They can do some pretty good damage, but again, you have to roll pretty high for them to be able to get any kind of ranged attack. So I'm really hoping that the Orks can, continue to fight here, but it's looking more and more like those Crimson Fists are probably going to pull this one out again, but we'll see. So I'm going to go over to the tray. I'm going to roll for the remaining Ork force, and we'll see if they can kill any of these Crimson Fist Marines before they possibly go down. Okay, so shoot completed for the Orks there. The rocket launcher tried to fire in. It did get a couple in there, but the Terminators just have too high a save with a 4+ invulnerable. They were able to save it, and the Ork Boy Knob was not able to fire. Just didn't get a high enough roll. That 5+ is super hard to get with a ballistic skill. Down here, the Beast Snagaboy Knob tried to fire, same deal, couldn't roll high enough, but the Gretchen, who does have that better ballistic skill on the back of the Ork War Boss, was able to use the big shooter, fired in with the rapid fire too, so it had 5 shots. It was able to kill one of the Intercessor Marines, and then the one on the left is now down to 1 wound, so 2 wounds were allocated there, and it is back over to the Crimson Fists here. And I think they're probably going to have to keep shooting on this side. So they're going to be locking in that Oath of Moment against the Ork War Boss because they need to get him done. And then these Terminators, I think, are going to just continue to, drudge forward as slowly and accurately as possible and probably finish off these 2. But we'll see how it goes. So over the dice tray, I'll roll it, come right back, and show you guys what remains of this Ork force. All right, Crimson Fists done. They locked in that Oath of Moment. I wanted to get the heavy ability there for the bolt rifle, so I didn't move them. Not the best idea. I put the crack grenade into the War Boss, and it actually got 2 wounds, but the War Boss was able to save, so he does have that. It was a 4+ save, usually a 2. He has an invulnerable 5, but the crack grenade did not bring him up there, so he was able to make both very good saves, and it looks like those intercessors might be in trouble as the huge choppa is going to try to cut them in half. Over here, the Terminators lucked out much better with their Oath of Moment. The heavy flamer is all that was needed. He gouted the Ork Boy Knob and the remaining Ork Boy with rocket launcher in flames and killed them both. So it's looking more and more like it might be the Terminators again versus the Ork War Boss. That's going to be one hell of a fight. But first things first, we need to move the Orks. I can tell you right now that this is definitely within 5 inches. So they're both going to be going in. And actually, the Beast Snagaboy Knob has a 6-inch movement. He's also got that Power Snapper. So I'm going to roll this one in the tray. The Orks have the initiative here. They will be fighting first. And then if there's any Marines remaining, they're going to be able to fight back. But good luck to those those Crimson Fists. They're Imperial Fist successors. They're not Imperial Fists. They're Crimson Fists. I have to remind myself of this. But yeah, so Crimson Fists, good luck. Let's see how it goes over the dice tray. Okay, here we go. So this is the Warlord for this Ork force, the War Boss in Mega Armor. No WOG has been called this turn, but he's still got some damn good attacks, damn good strength, damn good everything for hand-to-hand combat. So it is 4 attacks, hitting on a 2+. and he's got everything through. It is strength 12 versus toughness 4. This is going to be 2s to wound. So 1 did fall off. 3 are through. -2 to AP. So I'm just going to switch out my dice here to my red ones. -2 to AP, that brings the intercessors up to a 5+. So 1 did save it. However, let's see if that's enough. It is 2 damage per, so we have 2 4 wounds that have gone through. That means that he has swiped across them. One guy had 1 wound left, so that is 3. And the sergeant, who is all that remains, I want to keep him in there because he does have a power fist, which is the strongest weapon for hand-to-hand in that squad, has 1 wound remaining, and there is still the Power Snappa of the Beastnagaboy Knob, which we're going to roll right now for. And if by some chance the sergeant survives, he is going to be able to fight back, but it's probably only going to kill that Beastnagaboy because that's where I'm going to allocate those wounds. So let's get the Power Snap up here. It also has 4 attacks. Pretty damn good for, like, this is like your, equivalent to a sergeant for the Beastnagaboys. So it's going to be hitting on a 3+. And 1 fell off. It is strength 7, which is also quite impressive, versus toughness 4, so 3s to wound. And all of those are wounded. It is -1 to AP, which is going to bring that intercessor sergeant up to a 4+, and he's got to save 3 attacks. Everyone that is not saved is 2 wounds, so it's not looking great, but let's see, maybe he can get some miraculous 4+s here. He did not. So he was able to save 1. Not bad. These, however, went through, and that is 2 4 wounds. So that would have actually killed 2 healthy Crimson Fist Marines, and the Crimson Fist Intercessor Sergeant has fallen to the Ork War Boss in Mega Armor and the Beastnagaboy Knob. So back over to the Crimson Fists here. There are those Terminators still remaining, and that is the unit probably out of anyone from that force that could have taken out this War Boss. So that's how it goes. It's getting quicker and quicker to complete these moves. The Crimson Fist Terminators just got up on top of the hill there to get the best vantage point and fire down on the Beastnagaboy Knob, as well as the Ork Warboss in Mega Armor. However, the way that this is set up, the Beastnagaboy is in front of him, so those Terminator rounds are going to have to go onto that model first because he is blocking a good portion of that Warboss. So the Terminators are going to be firing everything they have into the Beastnagaboy Knob. I'm going to roll that off camera, come back, and we'll see if this knob is still around by some kind of miracle. Okay, so I should have mentioned there, since it's shooting, all those shoot attacks can go on to multiple models. So the Beastnagaboy was killed immediately by the Heavy Flamer, took 2 wounds, finished him off, and then the remaining Stormbolters all fired into the Warboss in Mega Armor, and the Warboss in Mega Armor has a 2+ regular save. Those Stormbolters have a 0 AP. So this is going to become very, very tricky. So if the Warboss can get into hand-to-hand combat, he's probably got the best ability. His Big Shooter isn't too bad. Like, it's got a strength 5, which is the same toughness as those Terminators, but there's no AP, so they're going to be getting 2+ saves every time. And then if the Flamer from the Terminator side is not doing any damage, it's got the strength 5 with the -1 to AP. The Stormbolters can't do anything. So I think this is going to boil down to getting into hand-to-hand combat from both sides. It makes the most sense. We know the Ork War Boss wants that anyways. He's frothing. He wants to get in there and start just chopping up Terminators. And then the Terminators with those power fists is probably their best option to deal with an enemy of this size and strength. So it is back over to the War Boss. He's not going to be able to close in here for hand-to-hand combat. I also have to keep in mind that I don't want those Terminators getting the initiative. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to maybe move him a little bit here, try to keep him in range of that rapid fire, and then from there see if I can maybe luckily wound, maybe take 1 or 2 wounds off the Terminators to soften them up for when they get into hand-to-hand combat. But I'll have to look at a few things, come back, and I'll show you guys what I decided to do. All right, so the War Boss moved over to the side there, 5 inches, which is his max move. Wanted to keep them in range, wanted to also keep them outside of that initiative distance for them jumping into hand-to-hand combat. So he is going to fire here. I'm going to do that off camera, come back and see if by some chance he's been able to wound one of these Terminators. And then from there, it's back over the Terminators. They're going to make their full move. put all their firepower onto him. Very possible that they could kill him if they get good rolls and I don't make good saves with the war boss. But I think this one is going to come down to hand-to-hand combat for the very end. I'm hoping that that is the case because that will be the most dramatic and cool, especially an ending like this for our Crimson Fists versus the Orks, who are, you know, sworn enemies of each other. So let's do the shoot here. I'll come right back and show you guys what's happened to the Terminators. So yeah, just as I thought, just not enough strength there from that big Shuda. He did get 2 shots off, or the Gretchen did, at least on his back. Gretchen Grink. And the Terminators were able to make a save there, so it's back over to them for their move, their shoot, and then we're going to see what happens after that. There we are. Those Crimson Fists are not turning down from a fight, and they're moving closer and closer to this Ork War Boss. They're going to be putting all their firepower onto him right now. I'm going to roll that in the tray, come back, and show you guys if the Ork War Boss has taken any damage, and if so, how much. All right, so the Terminators tried their best there. The Heavy Flamer, again, the best weapon still remaining on the board, was able to take 1 wound off the War Boss, so he is down to 5 from his original 7. He had 6 before that too. He was wounded a bit earlier on. It is now back to the War Boss. This is definitely in range. He is getting into hand-to-hand combat, what we've all been waiting for. We're going to see what this guy can do. There's no more wogs to be called, which would be great at this point, but he is taking on a squad of 4 remaining Crimson Fist Terminators by himself, and we're going to see what he does. He has the initiative here, so he will be attacking first. And then if the Terminators survive, they'll be fighting back, and they've got some damn good weapons in those Power Fists. So this is going to be a slugfest right until the end. And I can tell you one thing, this Ork War Boss would want it no other way. So let's go over the dice tray. We're going to start rolling this one, and it should be one hell of a Crumpen battle scrap fight. So let's go and do that. All right, so this is it. This might be it for the battle. We'll see what happens here. I know I've said that in a lot of previous fights, but this is the War Boss in Mega Armor, the warlord of this Ork force, still alive, the last model left of his army. 4 attacks, huge choppa hitting on a 2+. So 1 has fallen off. And there's no abilities there. I was just checking just to be sure. There's no WOG called right now, so 3 are through. It is strength 12 versus toughness 5, so this is going to be 2s to wound. Another 1. Anyways, 2 are through, so we got a 4 and a 5. Hoping you guys can see that. It is -2 to AP, so we're going to switch to our red dice here. That brings the Terminators up to their 4+ invulnerable. And there have been 2 4 wounds allocated. So that is the death of 1 of the Terminator models. They have 3 wounds apiece, and then 1 is down to 2 wounds. So I'm just getting those tokens here flipped around. So I'm going to need a couple. I need a 2 token. There we go. And now we're going to be doing the fight back for the Terminators. So I got to get that rolling here. And it is going to be their Power Fists. They still have quite a few attacks coming through here. So there's going to be 9 attacks that are going to be allocated to the Warlord in this counterattack, the War Boss. So these are hitting on a 3+. I can re-roll these 2 since this is their Oath of Moment, which the Ork does not have, sadly, or I would have picked up a lot more attacks there, I think, and a lot more damage. So 2 fell off, but I can re-roll these, looking for 3s. 1 continued to fall off, but 1 was picked up. This is strength 8 versus toughness 6, so still very impressive against the War Boss. It's going to be 3s to wound here. And I can add 1 to the ones that fall off. So this is a 2, this is a 2, not high enough, needed 3s. And there are 6 attacks that have been allocated. I'm going to grab 6 save dice here. It is a -2 to AP, which does not bring our War Boss up to his invulnerable of 5+, but he does have a 4+ invulnerable. So looking for 4s here for our War Boss in Mega Armor. So he was able to save 1, 2, 3. However, that is the end of our War Boss. I'm just checking his wounds here. He had 5 left. So each of these were not high enough to be saved. He needed those 4s. So that is 2, 4, 6 wounds allocated. The Crimson Fists have defeated this Ork force. One hell of a fight. I'll just switch over there and we'll show you guys the winning force. So there they are, our victors once again. So the Tyranid have received 2 victories, and now the Crimson Fists have done the same. So they defeated 2 enemies in a row, just finished off the Orks, as you have seen. Against the Tyranid, they only had 2 Terminators left. This time they have 3, so still a very, very close fight. And if the Orks, I don't know, this is a pretty good battlefield for the Orks. There's a lot of cover, and you can't wait for enemies, like, because they're going to shred you with distance fires. I was saying, if you don't have trucks and stuff to bring them in, so pretty good strategy by the Orks. Crimson Fist, though, are victorious. As I said to you guys, I think I've been going pretty hard on this since like December, Christmas holidays, so I'm going to take a break, I think, just enjoy some summer. You never know, I might get the itch again to come back and do something, but might switch it up for a little bit. This kind of King of the Hill Fight Force 4 will continue, but I might switch over to something else for a bit. We have the Last Stand series, if you guys want to check that out. My Narrative Crusade, I'd love to get going again for my Astra Militarum. There is also the our Mortal Kombat kind of one-on-one fights there, which is pretty cool too. We did a heavyweight and a medium weight for that, so you guys can check all those out. Tons of content to see. Just going to take a break, come back in a bit. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I don't know, maybe by next weekend I'll be like, hey, I'm going to do another one, but I'm going to clean this table up. It'll be a brand new table, possibly a brand new game next time coming to you guys. Please give us a like, please subscribe. Love doing this content for you, and apologies for all you Orc players out there that I forgot the Beast Snaga boys. Feel no pain, but I'll remember that for next time, and they're definitely going to be a force that's going to be taking on my Astra Militarum if I decide to do my narrative. So lots of stuff still on the horizon, just going to take a little bit. Other projects on the go too. I have Survivor Auto LRG. I'm also working on another Star Trek, the original series fan film. I have one of those as well. If you guys want to check all that stuff out, Finnigan Productions, FINNIGAN Productions.ca. And you can see all of my content from back to like 2005 when I started making films with my brother, the rest of my buddies in Finnigan Productions. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Finnigan 40K Fight Force 4. With the pause happening now, we have the Crimson Fists at the top of the hill, and I'll look at the other forces that I have, Xenos side, as well as Chaos Space Marine side, and see who can maybe take these guys out, and I'll place them in there, and we'll see what happens. Bye-bye for now. Have an awesome summer, and all you Canadians out there like myself, happy Canada Day. It's coming up in a couple days. I think I'll have this one edited and up for maybe a Canada Day release so you guys can enjoy that. And if it's rainy or whatever, so we'll see what happens. But thank you again. Bye-bye for now. Finnigan 40K, Fight Force 4.